My life is like a video game, trying hard to beat the stage, all while I am still collecting coins, said the classic by falling in reverse. In the 2000s, gamer culture started to gain more ground in the public consciousness, and by the 2010s, with the help of the internet, it was everywhere. Even little kids were getting in on it. Of course, with gaming comes the gaming publications, the websites, Screw Attack, Kotaku, Giant Bomb, IGN. I hope these are all sort of the same idea, cause these are just names to me. I don't mess around with any of that crap. Tonight's presentation focuses on one online gaming publication in particular, The Escapist. The Escapist was founded in 2003, originally conceived as a weekly PDF that gamers could download for all kinds of gaming goodies, but later on switched to a more involved website layout. You might recognize The Escapist for their once flagship series, Zero Punctuation, the thing with this guy and the PC Master Race. To a lesser extent, you have Extra Credits, which went platinum on my 10-year-old self's computer while I was trying to figure out how to code on hopscotch. Remember hopscotch? By holding on to such talent for as long as they were able, The Escapist became pretty well known, raking in the cash and winning several awards. However, it was clear that the people were coming to the site for the creators featured, and not so much for the talent of those keeping the gears moving. Too bad nobody running the site realized that. The tale of The Escapist is a tale of a site screwed over by corporate buyouts and general mismanagement, causing the loss of their own icons. But for all I know, they still maintain the rights to Game Dogs, the ambitious cartoon that foretold the site's own downfall. Okay, what the hell am I even looking at, Shunks, you ask? What is this and where did you find it? Game Dogs, for your information, is a 2010 animated series released on The Escapist's own website. The show was created by Russ Pitts, a man with one of the most grossest sounding names of all time, and editor-in-chief of The Escapist at the time. Designs were done by Jessica Feelhauer, and animation primarily by a man named George Palmer. I found this during research on TV tropes, vaguely related to another video. I looked at this picture, the category web animation, and I just had to see what this was. It's one of those TV trope pages you can tell it's either filled out by the creator or one guy who really liked Game Dogs, and thus I fell into a rabbit hole that I'm still yet to get out of, and I'm dragging all you people with me. Game Dogs takes place in the 1980s at a company called Electro Software, with the eccentric company CEO demanding the company branch out from office software to video games, or misfit employees are dragged together and forced to make a video game, or get fired trying. There's Chet, the slacker lead designer who only comes up with ideas and otherwise sits around and plays with toys. Can't relate? Computer programmer Roger, the nerdy best friend, and Bethany, the token girl. It's okay though, because they make jokes about her being the token girl.
Who are you?
I'm Bethany. I'm the token girl.
Gary, their quick-to-anger boss who wants to shut down the games division and get back to his previous job. Other side characters include the company's CEO, Mr. Yi, Bob, and I just died in your arms tonight. Each episode is about 5 minutes, with the first season following an overarching story of them designing a game, releasing it, and going to E3, which didn't exist until 1995. Remember, this show is supposed to take place in the early 80s, and you would not believe how quickly that gets dropped for them having BlackBerry phones, the internet, and Silence of the Lambs references. Judging from the behind-the-scenes video, the series looks like it was made in Adobe After Effects, with designs ported over from Photoshop. In the year of our Lord 2024, that's not a horrible way to make a cartoon with limited tween animation, but I guess it must have been like banging rocks together in 2010, because the visuals are by far the show's weakest aspect. It's like the opposite of how tweened animation is usually done. When you're working with digital puppets, there are some things you move around, like parts of the body, and some things you animate by using different frames, like the mouth. Not that you can't have different drawings that you swap out for the arms and the eyes and all that. Do it however you want, man. But it's unconventional to switch between drawings for the entire upper body like this show does. It creates this look where the characters are sort of floating around, but their facial expressions and poses will switch on a dime, and there's this weird disconnect. And the mouths. I think it's really charming that they kind of just move the lower jaw up and down for the mouth, but no doubt it comes off as really cheap to most people, and definitely was a choice to save time. Most likely they were mapping the animation to the dialogue automatically, kind of like those dubstep music visualizers, but for a cartoon anthro dog's mouth. What's very strange is that the character's lower jaw is on a layer under their clothes. Look at this. Something you'll notice once it's pointed out to you is that the characters blink every time they change position. I think what really kills the animation is the fact that they show the character's whole body. I imagine if they were smarter with it, they would cheat the whole time and just have their upper bodies tweening around when they're walking, but no. From the first episodes, you see them gliding along the floor. That calls into question why they decided to go with dogs. If they're dealing with animation this limited, I think the best thing to do would have been to design the characters with some excuse as to why they move like that. Make them robots that are on wheels, or ghosts, or something that flies around, like fish that swim underwater. Them being dogs doesn't even matter that much to the story anyway. I think the way they're drawn is fine for what this is, but they're not stylized in any interesting way other than it's a cartoon. It's not leaning towards anime or Western animation or whatever, it's very bland. I look at these guys and the only things my mind can compare them to are like badly drawn restaurant mascots. I swear nobody's gonna know what I'm talking about, but Ruby Tuesday had a dog mascot character at one point in the early 2010s that I can't find any documentation of anywhere. Even Control-Alt-Delete had vague flavors of an art style. The overall look of the show reeks of cartoon made by people who don't know how to make animation but did anyway because they thought it would be easy, on the level of cartoon parodies made in Adobe Character Animator. I mean, I can shit on the animation all I want, but they had to turn these around in a week, which makes the cheapness understandable. Animation is hard, and even though it looks like what it looks like, they got around 20 5-minute episodes done. It's kind of a shame because they did all they could do to make it cost effective, and even that kind of planning takes effort. Kids, as someone who makes student films, I'll tell you this right now, animation isn't about bringing your ideas to life, telling stories that inspire people, and make them laugh, changing the world with your imagination. It's really about compromising your vision so you can get things out on time. Game Dogs is made in the mold of G4's Code Monkeys, another show about characters working in a game studio. Unlike Code Monkeys, which has a unique art style, and is episodic, Game Dogs has an overarching plot. Sure, each episode presents some new scenario for our heroes to deal with, but they all lead into each other. If this series continued for longer, I imagine it would be like Sonic for Hire, where each of the seasons presents some new setting or crazy conflict for the Game Dogs to deal with. A continuity makes it so that the next episode is at least worth peeking at. There's something fun about seeing the progression of the game they make get released and looking for what kind of arcs or payoffs there might be. Not many, but it's the thought that counts. The humor episode to episode isn't half bad. Some of the banter had me nodding my head like, yeah, that was good. I'd say it's the strongest part of the show, but even then. Random comments like when Chet talks about how awesome it is selling out got me.
Kind of liberating to sell your soul and trash all of your principles just to cash a paycheck.
The episode where they go to the party and Roger misuses the whole fish analogy that Chet sets up at the beginning is cute.
Most of them are kind of swirling around Axel Rom over there like plankton rolling in the eddies behind a passing whale.
You see, Fifi, you're like the plankton in the ocean, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I'm the whale.
I also liked in the World of Warcraft episode where Chet and Roger kill everyone at Bethany's wedding for XP.
Ogard, can you ever forgive me? Ogard? You killed Ogard?
Some of the CEO characters' mad ramblings can be good, like how he wants to make a Satan game to capitalize on the 80s satanic panic, because remember, this is supposed to take place during the 80s. It's scattered for sure, but you can tell that with some polish, they could have had some great humor. For every funny line in an episode, however, there'll be some joke you've heard in 12 other things, or something so obvious it doesn't even qualify as humor. Whenever they try and give a character some kind of catchphrase, it falls flat. The CEO forgetting people's names is overdone, and so is whenever the weird coworker goes on about the employee handbook. People on the escapist forums at the time really hated whenever Bethany would say sigh instead of just sighing, or gasp instead of gasping, etc.
You're fired! Fired!
Sigh.
I didn't even notice nor care, but that is worth mentioning, because I found this amazing meme of the Heath Ledger Joker.
Have you watched Game Dogs this week? It's actually half decent for its changed.
Damn. Really?
Yeah, bro, go check it out.
Sigh.
The only meme out there related to Game Dogs at all, probably. One of a kind. Let me put this on the blockchain. There's a lot of that generic dog humor, like dog puns and squeaky toy, bone, fire hydrant crap. And it is a 2010 web cartoon, so there are some things that might not have aged particularly well.
You're not really female, are you?
If they actually went in harder with the offensive stuff, I think it could have had some ironic shock value, but really it just feels like surface level 2010 humor.
Helped her get her green card.
Surgery.
Yes, whatever.
The biggest pitfall in the humor is them trying too hard, when some of the more subtle bits of dialogue are really what charmed me. I think the reason the show's humor doesn't hit as much as it should is the characterization. Chet, Roger, and Bethany are a main trio you've seen before, and they don't do much in each episode to step outside of their established archetypes. Even then, their personalities aren't that strong. I like when Roger has a few moments when he's more assertive, but that's never developed much. This isn't a show for children, thankfully, so Bethany isn't put on a moral pedestal the way other token girl characters might be, and that can result in some nice bits. Jennifer is this blonde valley girl who also works at the company. She shows up in a total of 2 episodes and doesn't do much except talk like this.
You spent all day playing with toys and stupid games. I can't believe you thought I would like you.
And get BTFO'd by the computer that has a crush on Roger.
KCD programmed her main board speaker to emit a high-pitched noise at a frequency only Salukis can hear.
We're not counting the computer as a character. Mr. Yi is very generic, and just like Jennifer, he has one of those accents that's in everything, the obnoxious rich guy voice.
Oh, our booth fantastic!
That goes on for a whole minute, by the way. The famous game designer dog is really obnoxious. The whole thing with him was super lame.
Is to collect all the puppies you can find, and then put them in this machine, which makes them into machine gun toting cyborg puppies.
Anytime they talk about gratuitous blood and guts, it's not funny. The RPG guy who talks in Old English to get girls was a fun idea, but like a good chunk of jokes in the show, they beat you over the head with it to the point where it stops being entertaining. Gary as the boss is incredibly one-note. All he does is come in and yell at them, but he doesn't really have any power, and is just in the palm of the CEO. His motivation to fire the titular game dogs in order to get his old job back is neat, and I think they could have done more with that. There should have been more character development within the overarching story. The only one who kinda gets that is Bob. For context, the game dog's office is set up in a break room. Bob is this guy who comes in and acts like an awkward weirdo. He clearly became the favorite of the creators, and his role gets bumped up more and more until he becomes the main character of Season 2. Ah yes, Game Dogs Season 2. It was clear from the first that this show wasn't going to be the next big thing. Remember, this had to compete with Zero Punctuation and other popular shows like Unforgotten Realms.
Okay, I searched for hidden walls.
You are standing outside! There are no hidden walls!
Sweet, I'll check for secret doors.
There aren't any.
Suspicious.
Deep in the escapist office, the lack of success made the Game Dogs crew go cuckoo bananas, resulting in an ending that nobody could have predicted. Ooh. In the Season 1 finale, the game is finally out and selling like hotcakes. Mr. Yi sells the company off to some Russian investors and takes his new wife with him to space. Since the company is under new management, Gary can't fire the Game Dogs TM. Bob snaps and has some Vietnam flashbacks. Not kidding, this is a plotline in the second season, and Season 2 is thus set up. The first few episodes of Season 2 follow the formula of the last, with the Russians in the background while the main 3 work. Bob is now crawling around in the vents trying to do guerrilla warfare against the new owners, and there's a guy called Steve running around who can't get a word in edgewise because Bob is the new main character. More and more it becomes about Bob and the Russians. There's an episode where the main characters don't even show up and it just has these 2 Russian characters trying to sell knives. There's another where it flashes back to Bob and Mr. Yi in the jungles in Vietnam. Apparently the reason Mr. Yi talks like that is because he got shot in the head. That's some Game Dogs lore for you. And the final episode, Hand of Fate. For what would end up being the final episode of the show, they were gonna go out with a bang. From all I researched, it really seems like Game Dogs was poised to be sort of a next big thing. Ads were apparently all over the Escapist site. There was a behind the scenes video, all kinds of promos, but it wasn't meant to be. The final article related to Game Dogs posted on the Escapist read the following. Bethany, Chet, Roger, you decide who will die in an upcoming Game Dogs episode. Hosted on the site was a flash game where you could shoot at any of the 3 characters. No, it's not archived. Game Dogs Flash Game Kill Game Dogs was lost media? All we have is this Candle Cove looking title screen. On the forums, people were ecstatic to blast away their least favorite game dog. At one point, people were complaining that it was rigged since it would only show Bethany and Roger for which one you killed, which adds another layer of intrigue on top of that. Wouldn't it be funny if those were the ones they actually killed in the episode? Anyways, they apparently did tally up which characters people wanted dead, and in the final episode, Bethany and Roger are killed off without a second thought. At least they never got to see Gamergate, whatever Gamergate was. Real talk, I still can't believe something like this is real and that this was the last episode and nobody's ever talked about this. It's literally like a creepypasta. There's blood, unrelated sides at the end, everything. All we need is like pictures of real corpses, but you know. Game Dogs was too classy. Game Dogs was a grim harbinger of what would happen at The Escapist. Let's hear from the creator himself.
If you look really closely, you notice Game Dogs is actually a parody of this company. In fact, I'm not going to tell you who's who.
In 2011, a year after the show came out, and the same year all the episodes were put on the Escapist YouTube channel, the extra credits team left due to a situation wherein allegedly the Escapist refused to pay them, leading them to crowdfund money for their artist's operation, and on top of that, the Escapist demanded that the extra money from the Kickstarter be funneled back into making more episodes for their site. After that whole controversy, you saw a lot of the recognizable figures leave the site, and even recently, due to a change in management from a corporate buyout, the company's then current editor-in-chief was fired, causing pretty much everyone on the site, including Yahtzee of Zero Punctuation, to pack their things and form a new independently owned company, with the Escapist just now existing. All their people gone. In Game Dogs, it's not Gary or Mr. Yi that makes the game that sells 1 billion units, it's the main characters, the little guys on the bottom rung. That's the way it was with the website, and the corporate buyout that turned everything upside down and caused the downfall. What did they know at the time that we didn't?
Notice Game Dogs is actually a parody of this company.
Game Dogs is a relatively unmemorable show within the grand scheme of video game-based web animation. If it weren't because it had furries in it, I don't think I would have had any reason to talk about it, and I'm sure most of my audience would have no reason to go check it out. Unfortunately, it falls in the middle of that blurry line between so bad it's good and genuinely charming. The animation is substandard, the humor is unremarkable, but it was fun to look at a niche thing like this that has zero discussion about it aside from the TV tropes page and the Escapist forums, wherein the lead animator goes on to yell at people who don't like the show. Classy. And hey, Second Wind, the company with all the Escapist people. If you need someone to make the next generation Game Dogs, I'll volunteer. I'll do it for free, or at least very cheap. I can't believe they didn't kill off Jennifer. They realized that she was the best character, so they had to keep her alive.